I personally find small utility bikes or compact utility bikes incredibly fascinating because they combine an especially compact size with great utility, making them way more practical and versatile than most regular bikes. But how compact is too compact? Hey, I'm Tillman from the Radelbande, and this right here, as well as that over there, is the Yoonit Micro, crafted to hit that perfect sweet spot in functionality. And in this video, we're going to find out if they've succeeded. Before we fully dive into the video, here's a quick transparency note. Yoonit lent us these two bikes for the duration we required to produce this video. And they are financially supporting the production of this video. However, they didn't tell us what we should say in any way. All thoughts and statements are entirely my own, or rather, our own. And they don't get to see the video before you do, not even a glimpse. We are completely manufacturer neutral. And with that, let's dive in. Yoonit came onto the market a few years ago with a very compact cargo bike, designed to be just as practical and with a cargo area just as large as a full-sized cargo bike, but at the same time only as long as a regular bike. And the concept worked. Extremely nimble, easy to park, and truly practical for most everyday use cases. In the Pro line, the Yoonit can handle serious weight with ease, but even that wasn't enough for the Yoonit team. And so the bike was renamed this year to Yoonit Mini, and below that, there's now the Yoonit Micro rounding the portfolio down. And the construction of this bike is quite exciting because it visually and functionally ties in with the Yoonit Mini. The material of the frame manufactured in Holland is steel, and therefore we see the quite slim frame shape here, and from the middle, about from here to the back, the frame construction is just like the Minis. But instead of the large loading area and a front wheel that's set further forward, it's now been shortened at the front. Its 18-inch wheels are smaller than those of classic compact bikes, and when you combine all these factors, its compact size measures just 139 centimeters in total. That's still almost 20 centimeters longer than a city hopper, but also nearly 20 centimeters shorter than classic compact bikes. This naturally results in a somewhat funny appearance, and when I sit on it, the bike is undeniably and noticeably taller overall than it is long. But how it rides, we'll see that later. There are different versions of the Yoonit Micro. First off, in 4 different colors with a chain or belt, and the choice between unmotorized or with a motor. And this here is the Sporty Special Edition. It's got a bit of a gravel BMX vibe to it and comes equipped with a sleek red belt for that extra touch of style and performance. When we take a closer look at the more practical motor-equipped version, it's obvious that nothing's been cut back. In fact, the same high-performance Shimano EP6 motor is integrated here, identical to the one used in the larger Yoonit Mini model. A real pocket rocket. What's really impressive about this design is the packaging. They've already done something quite similar with the Yoonit Mini, but here they've managed to fit some of the absolute shortest chainstays I've ever encountered on any bicycle. At the ends, the frame is constructed with flat steel to ensure there's complete clearance for the crank. Then just a very short tube, and immediately here the dropout begins, featuring an opening designed to guide a belt through, which can then also be adjusted and tensioned down here using these specific bolts. So quite a clever design, which also has the luggage carrier mounted here, and where a trailer hitch could easily be installed as well, adding even more functionality to the setup. So this bike is genuinely ready for serious cargo tasks. And here's another fun detail in the overall design. The battery isn't entirely centered on the down tube. To create space here for the crankset, it's been slightly shifted to the left, which is a smart and practical design choice to optimize the overall layout. As a result, You're constantly noticing this slightly asymmetrical design whenever you take the unit out for a ride. As is typical with compact bikes, there's only one frame size, which, according to Yoonit, fits people between 1.6 meters and 2 meters tall. This is made possible by a height-adjustable seat post with a quick-release lever, which allows for a wide range of adjustment. And the second feature that contributes to this is a handlebar that's fully adjustable in height. Here with the Satori up and down, a truly extensive and impressively wide adjustment range is easily provided. And what also adds to it is this BMX-style handlebar. It features a significant rise, a bit of back sweep, so it tilts slightly backward, creating a very comfortable and ergonomic seating position. This design ensures that both shorter and taller individuals can ride this bike with ease, although the step-through height isn't quite as low as you'd find on other compact bikes. That unit truly means business with space utilization is also evident in another detail, because with this height-adjustable handlebar, you can not only adjust the height, but it can also be folded to the side. When combined with the foldable pedals, the design ensures the bike maintains an impressively slim profile, effectively maximizing overall space efficiency. Folded up like this, the bike becomes remarkably slim, enabling it to be effortlessly stored in tight spots or conveniently placed on a bike rack. And there's yet another point that strongly supports this aspect, namely the absence of wide loading surfaces. But what about this? Wait a second, this clearly has a wide loading surface, doesn't it really? Or not? Oh no, not this either. The standard version of the Yoonit Micro comes with two luggage carriers. One is mounted here at the front on these two attachment points, can carry up to 10 kilograms, and features an AVS mount for added convenience and improved stability overall. With this, you can easily attach all sorts of baskets, loading surfaces, boxes or any other custom-built accessories and remove them just as effortlessly, allowing you to quickly adapt it to your specific needs or usage scenarios at any time. And you can also get creative yourself. And at the back, there's this rack installed which can handle a load of up to 27 kilograms. Here, there's also an AVS interface available for some basket mix and mesh, adding versatility to your creative options. They just shouldn't be set too high though, because they could then come into conflict with the saddle as it's positioned relatively far back on the bike's frame structure. Additionally, this rack also features a classic spring clip and mounts for panniers, which you'd commonly use in everyday situations. And because the rear rack is positioned quite high above the rear wheel, it's also set further away from the pedals, so you won't constantly find yourself accidentally scraping your feet against it while riding. And then there's yet another practical detail to mention: mounts for bottle holders and a variety of other accessories. For example, bottle holders can be mounted right here. Additionally, a lock mount can be attached just below this spot. And here in the fork, there are mounting points specifically designed for racks, cages, or a low-rider-style front rack. So this bike is ready for absolutely everything, even for compact bikepacking adventures. Is that a thing? Is it a trend right now? Yeah, whatever. We're going to check out how it rides when loaded up. Alright, let's take this thing for a spin. We've got 12 kilos loaded on the back here, which is roughly equivalent to a child's weight, including the camera and all the gear. And up front here, we've got another 8 kilograms, which is meant to represent something like an 8-kilogram kettlebell or perhaps a small dog, with a bit of extra weight added on top of that, just to give it a realistic feel. You know what I mean. So you can make your choice, and with me involved, the entire system is already pretty much pushed to its limits. But let's see how it behaves during the ride now. So take it off the stand. That's not that easy. And first of all, of course, the acceleration test. We're now in the highest assist level, shifting into the lowest gear. And then let's see how quickly we can get to 25. Here we go. And 25. And typical for the combination of the Nexus 5e and the Shimano EP6 motor are a few noticeable features. The gear shifts are really super smooth, completely silent, at least when shifting from lower to higher gears. And the motor is also very quiet and incredibly smooth in delivering power, but still feels quite strong and responsive. It also responds very quickly when you step on it and remains remarkably quiet and smooth throughout the drive, just like the Nexus 5A. When you're coasting, there's no loud freewheel noise. The entire system is designed to ensure quietness and smooth operation. And I find that very pleasant. Now here, on such a bumpy surface, you can hear a bit of the The bike itself feels super stable, but naturally with that level of stability there's a bit of rumbling going on, particularly from the heavy items I've got packed in there right now. And of course, the short wheelbase also contributes to the rumbling. We'll get back to that in a moment. But first, let's see how easily we can make it up the Jerusalemsburg here. We're aiming for a steady pedaling cadence, around 70 to 80 revolutions per minute. 24.4 kilometers per hour is our base speed. About 200 watts, nothing more. Now it's getting slower. Wrong direction, third gear. 18.19 kilometers per hour with little of my own power on the pedal. So the bike really picks up speed here very quickly, but that naturally means that even steeper inclines aren't a problem at all with this bike. I was in third gear and still had 2 gears lower, so it was really very relaxed and easygoing. Yeah, the rattling isn't to be ignored. Smaller, sharper edges, they don't cause much trouble for the bicycle overall, but they do ensure it gets quite a significant pounding, despite the relatively thick tires, where with 20 inches you hardly have to make any compromises. 18 inches is just a bit smaller still. But now during the ride, especially on smooth surfaces, you really don't notice it at all. You wouldn't suspect that this bike had such incredibly small wheels and tires if you didn't see it. When you then start to lean into a bit of a curve, you definitely begin to notice quite a lot. The short wheelbase ensures incredibly agile handling. The bike turns in very sharply and responsively, even with the load attached at the front and rear. On the other hand, it's also quite stable. We're seeing a bit of shimmy from the handlebar here, but it doesn't escalate. It's all very easy to manage and keep under control. And you can also ride one-handed, for example, when you need to signal your direction. It's really no problem at all. In terms of the seating position, I'm sitting relatively sporty on it because that's how I prefer it. I could raise the handlebar quite a bit higher, but I'm sitting a bit too low. So the seat post is still a little bit too short. If I were to sit higher, I would also end up sitting farther back. And that brings us a bit to the point of the center of gravity, which is naturally relatively high on this bike. And that's especially the case at a traffic light when the bike is unloaded, with full assistance activated. You really need to be careful that the front wheel doesn't lift up. Speaking of it, now with the load, the bike doesn't necessarily tend to lift up, despite relatively strong pedaling. But the motor still gets you up to 25 quickly. With Shimano, it's typical that it's a bit rough around the 25 kilometers per hour mark. But let's see how it handles gravel. Yeah, oof. It's a bit rough. A bit too sandy. The short wheelbase is quite noticeable here. It's very agile. You have to get used to it a bit. Overall, it handles this quite well, even if it's not entirely comfortable. But now we've reached the point where it's all about how well the Nexus 5e can handle climbing up a steep incline. First gear, full support level activated, and here we go right now then. You really need to apply a bit of force during the initial takeoff so that the engine properly registers the signal that it's time to start moving forward. But then it has quite a bit of power to get you moving forward pretty well, even if it's not exactly exclusive or top tier within its performance category standards. In this case, however, you really have to be careful, especially when loaded, that the front wheel doesn't lift. You really need to maintain a bit of control with your legs, avoid pedaling too hard, and if you're unsure, just ease off the pressure a little bit more carefully. And pushing the bike also doesn't come with any issues, even if the step through isn't super low. So get on it, lift your leg just a little bit, and then you're ready to keep moving, even if you have to ride without the motor. It still works pretty smoothly and easily. As mentioned earlier, the first gear isn't super short, so it does require a bit more effort when starting uphill. Even with a normal load, riding without the motor isn't a problem. And in this regard, both the Special Edition and the Yoonit Micro without a motor are definitely solid options, depending on your intended use case, and what obviously works exceptionally well with such a short wheelbase and such small wheels. Is this? And even at my height of 6 feet 5 inches, I still don't have the problem of accidentally bumping into the handlebars during sharp turns. But there's really enough space, and that's very comfortable. And what also stands out is that the bike has a steering lock, meaning you can't over-rotate either. And we'll take a closer look right now at how it handles cobblestones with that short wheelbase. And yeah, the tires can absorb quite a bit of the impact, but It's definitely accompanied by a lot of noticeable vibrations and rattling. So for regular cobblestone sections, it's not exactly the best suited option overall. Every now and then it works, but the bike's unsprung nature really becomes apparent. And the short wheelbase make it more suitable for surfaces that are actually smoother and less rough or uneven overall. At 25 kilometers per hour, you essentially have the choice between two gears, the fourth and the fifth. The fourth gear has a cadence of about 75 revolutions per minute, which, for my personal taste, is very comfortable. And the fifth has a cadence of about 60 revolutions per minute, which should be ideal for most riders who like to pedal at a slightly slower pace. So overall, a well-balanced setup. Starting now, we'll do the braking test from 25 kilometers per hour, and we'll brake at the second line, starting now. Okay, so the braking distance wasn't super short, but it was still within acceptable limits. We're managing a relatively lightweight bike with a short wheelbase, which means the majority of the braking power is applied through the front wheel. We needed about 1.5 to 2.5 times the bike's length to come to a complete and controlled stop safely. The braking feel with the Shimano levers is pretty decent. They're quite comfortably wide and designed as two-finger levers. The braking point isn't super precise, but it's easy to modulate, and the lever operation feels very light and smooth, making it effortless to control. In terms of the size of the brake discs and the braking performance, it's not overwhelming, but it's sufficient for most applications, especially in the city. It feels like a BMX on steroids, very crisp handling, very nimble, and with the powerful motor, it pushes you forward quite strongly. Even with my weight and fully loaded like this, it doesn't falter. It's not exactly comfortable. Instead, it really makes you feel every bit of the surface you're riding on. But it's no different with the BMX. Right now, we definitely want to see how it feels after a few weeks of using it. Yes, now the time has come. Several weeks have passed that we've been out here with the Yoonit Micros. They're really micro, you know. In case you're wondering where we are at the moment, we're at the new Yoonit concept store in Hafen City. And it looks pretty dashing, as we boomers would say. So, Yoonit has rented out a nice space here where they not only sell their bikes, but also want to create a kind of meeting point for mobility, for micro-mobility or modern mobility, complete with a few events and similar activities. And it's a really small shop, but very, very tall. And the great thing is that the bikes from Yoonit are also very, very compact. Just like the micros we've been riding all around the neighborhood these past few weeks. And now we're going to take a closer look at what the Yoonit Micros do really well and where they might have some areas that could use a bit more attention and improvement. And the biggest critique we have is that we eventually have to give them back, which is a real downside. I'm saying this right from the start. But of course, we'll get into the actual criticisms in a moment. You can also find a complete evaluation based on the Radelbande rating matrix below via the link in the video description. Let's now dive into 3 points that we really enjoyed and 3 aspects that we weren't so keen on. And we'll start with the latter. And here's the first point, and arguably the most significant one, the stand yet another time. The Yoonit Micro is in itself a relatively small bicycle, but it's quite surprisingly not particularly lightweight. That's why you always need to be a bit more careful with the stand so you don't end up pushing it off the kickstand, but instead make sure to lift it up a bit. And depending on how heavily the bike is loaded and whether you're taller or shorter, it can indeed get a bit tiring over time. If you have the unit with a rack, then simply lift it up here at the back on the rack. Or if you have the bike without a rack, then just lift it up here at the back on the saddle. And then you can operate the stand without any mechanical strain. But for that, you'll need a bit of strength. The second point that stood out to us is that the bike isn't necessarily super comfortable. On one hand, the short wheelbase plays a role, and on the other hand, the completely unsprung nature of this frame does too. Even though it's a steel frame that naturally has some elasticity, the tubes are extremely thick to ensure that stiffness, and it definitely ends up rumbling quite noticeably over certain stretches of the road and uneven surfaces, to which the relatively small wheels, of course, contribute. This bike isn't exactly a comfort miracle. And the third point, where you really need to be careful, is its wheelie tendency. When you're sitting on the bike, the center of gravity is positioned relatively far back because of this seating geometry. You're practically sitting directly over the rear wheel, especially if you're taller. And that leads to the situation, particularly in the motorized version, where it can very quickly cause the front wheel to lift off the ground, especially when the front isn't loaded or only very lightly, and the rear is still carrying weight. A crate on it then you really have to be careful at the traffic light not to accelerate too hard, as it can easily destabilize the vehicle. So the bike is really aimed at people who are a bit more into cycling and who also possess some basic bike handling skills. But I would actually recommend starting by fully loading the front cargo area first, and then, if there's anything left over that doesn't fit up there, you can just go ahead and move it to the back instead. But there's also the corresponding accessories available for that. But honestly, the comment at the very beginning that we'd prefer to keep it wasn't just said casually to impress Sebastian behind the camera, but the bike actually really impressed us over the past few weeks. Or both bikes, to be fair, they've been great. And here are the 3 reasons why. First off, it's incredibly easy to share, which makes it really convenient for everyone. Both Leah and I really enjoyed riding both bikes a lot. We decided to take them along on our camping trip with us. We used them to accompany the kids on their own bike rides. I even went for a pretty sporty round with it. So it's really versatile for both bigger and smaller people. And thanks to this excellent adjustability, it's also very straightforward to customize it to meet the wide-ranging needs of each and every individual user. In that sense, this flexibility regarding the riders is truly brilliant. The second point is that we really have a lot of variability here in the smallest space. The 2 luggage racks that we see here on the electrified version, and also on the standard version without a motor, work in combination with the wide range of accessories to ensure that you can transport just about anything. Whether it's the kids' school backpacks, or even a drinks crate or 2, the occasional grocery run you might want to take with you, or any other essentials you need on the go, all the way up to a small dog in this crate. It's really versatile, and that's on just about 1.40 meters, or under 1.40 meters in length. And the third point is that this is a product that's pretty much locally sourced and produced. First of all, Yoonit is based right here in Hamburg, which naturally gives them a truly special place in my heart, you know what I mean? But that's not the only thing, because Yoonit has the frames welded and then manufactured in the Netherlands. They benefit from short delivery distances and can easily track and verify the quality assurance. And the assembly of the bikes is also carried out entirely back in Germany, ensuring local production. And they're designed and constructed right here in Hamburg, the bikes. Not just the Micro, but also the Mini, fully equipped with all the necessary accessories and additional components. So it's quite a European product overall. Naturally, if we take a moment to set aside the Shimano components, you could definitely argue. But here too, there's just a quick connection to the manufacturer. Yeah, and one of the delicious coffees from Playground Coffee. Let's move on to the conclusion now. Who is the Yoonit Micro best suited for? I'd say it's suitable for anyone who already enjoys cycling, who's also a bit enthusiastic about bikes, and wants a reliable, practical option. For everyone looking for a compact bike that's even cooler and more stylish. The Yoonit Micro appeals to people who already ride bikes regularly, but are simply searching for something small, convenient, and practical. That can be compactly folded or folded. Well, it doesn't really fold, but it does flatten out. It can be easily placed anywhere, and it offers much greater load capacity and versatility compared to a folding bike, for instance. Plus, it's designed for everyday practicality and ease of use. But in terms of footprint, it's not significantly larger, so for anyone with limited space who needs as much room as possible on their bike, the Yoonit Micro is the ideal choice. And it's also an excellent fun bike, and you should absolutely feel free to chat about your bike whenever you get the opportunity to do so. Because at the campsite where we stayed, we were approached so often about this bike simply because we could transport an insane amount with it. And for us, the Yoonit Micro Race, for example, would fill a gap because we don't take our kids on the bike as often anymore, but instead, we accompany them on their own bikes. And something like that would be really ideal, especially in the version without a motor. So if you're looking for a small compact bike, then definitely check out the Yoonit Micro. Maybe even here in the concept store in Hamburg's Hafen City. They also serve some really great coffee here, I must say. But share your thoughts in the comments about the Yoonit Micro. Would that be the perfect bike for your needs? Are you searching for something that's even a bit more compact? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and let us know. Give it a thumbs up if you liked the video and if you want to join us when the Radelbande team hits the road again. Then subscribe to the channel. Bye for now.